taking their time right behind my back. I'm looking for myself alone because I can't forget. I can go through my mind behind a cigarette. There's no message coming from my eyes. Every single one's got a story to tell. Everyone knows about it. From the creator to the home club, yeah. And if I catch you coming back my way, I'll promise sell it to you. I ain't what you want to hear, but that's what I'll do. Anything coming from my voice. I'm gonna Wichita, far from this opera forevermore. I'm gonna work the sun, leave the sweat drip out of every pore. And I couldn't even bring it, and I've been all alone. Words are gonna bleed from me, and I will think no more. Any schemes coming from my blood.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing today? I feel like I need to, first of all, tell everybody that unfortunately, this is not going to be a stream of feminism. Unfortunately, the person that I was going to have on, unfortunately, hasn't arrived, shall we say. She has decided timelines and things like that. And unfortunately, I think it's more to do with timing issues as she's in the Pacific. So she's around about 8 hours behind us. So it's around about 11, 12 o'clock in, well, the afternoon-ish, mid-morning, if you know what I mean by that. So hopefully we should all be okay. But I've got a couple of stories lined up and everything else like that. So hopefully people will be okay with the stories and everything. And I am on my own as well. But that's what it is. I haven't been able to get anywhere or do anything. So we'll see what happens. If somebody wants to come in and start talking with us, I can also do kind of an open mic night as well if we so need to. I can also put the Hangouts in the actual, in the actual box itself and see if anybody wants to come on and see what happens and transpires and so on and so forth. So the Hangout link is now actually in the chat. So if anybody wants to come on or say hello or whatever, then I'm more than happy to have that done. If not, I suppose I should carry on with some of the stories. I do have some decent stories, to be fair. I do actually have some decent ones. First of all, I think if nobody else comes on very, very shortly, I am going to start off with the Pope and how strict it's now getting to report sexual abuse inside of the Catholic Church. That's absolutely fine, Mr. Quinn. Don't have to worry about it. I should be man enough and brave enough to be able to hold my own. So we'll see how this goes. It may be a bit quicker, actually, than a normal stream. And yes, that is what she said. So I don't know how this is going to go and what people are going to say, but if things all go well, it should be okay. Should be. So let's kick off into an actual story that I was actually going to do as a video, but I think it's better to actually do this as a, well, as a story. So as you can see, the Pope just laid down strict new rules on reporting sexual abuse or sex abuse, which I find very interesting, to be honest with you guys. I do find it very interesting. So let's find out what laws that he's now put into place, shall we? Yes, this is from Vice News. Oh, and now there's an advertisement. You gotta love bloody advertisements and everything else like that, haven't you? Anyway, so ignore the bottom because apparently I can't seem to get rid of it at this minute in time. See if I can get down a little bit further. No, it's just going across board. So what we do is we do that and get rid of it. Yay! Wonders of technology. So, reading the story, one the best from that went well, didn't it? It was just because it was big, bold, and black. I had to look at it. I had to read it. It's just the way it is. So, Catholic diocese or diocese. Sorry about that. I can't read that word. I'm a little bit stupid. Around the world will be required to report incidences of sexual abuse as well as efforts by higher-ups to conceal such allegations to church authorities, according to new rules issued by Pope Francis on Thursday. So let's just read that again, apart from the bit that I can't read. So around the world will be required to report incidents of sexual abuse as well as efforts by higher-ups to conceal such allegations. So I'm going to have to find out what this actual word is and what it actually means, because I'm not 100% sure. So let's quickly go and do this.
Diocese.
So diocese, a strict under the pastoral care of a bishop of the Christian church, or in this case, the Catholic Church, by proper domination. So interesting on that one. So it's completely strict under the bishop of the localized church. So they are the ones who are going to be required to report incidents, not generalized people anymore, but those are going to be the ones that need to report the abuse, and as well as the efforts to be concealing up higher ups and conceal their allegations. Seems interesting, doesn't it? So while many dioceses in the United States and Europe have already developed such rules to ensure allegations are received confidentially, interesting, very interesting. So why many dioceses in the United States and Europe have already developed such rules? Did that happen in Ireland? Did that happen in the US? Did that happen in South America? Did that happen when the child sex abuse scandals were all coming out in Ireland? When they all come out in the United Kingdom as a whole? When it come out in the United States, South America as well? I know that it's not part of the United States before people go over the top. I do understand. But that seems very, very one-sided on that aspect, doesn't it? Very, very one-sided. It's got to be somebody that's already in the church that has to take up the higher-ups and has to go over the bishop of the providing church or presiding church and actually be able to report it. It seems very skewered, doesn't it? Why not just go to the police? Why does it have to be a church internal matter? Why not go to the police first? And then let the police go to the right higher-ups and let them conduct the actual investigation? Why should it be up to the church and the diocese or the actual bishops themselves or the higher ups in Rome to decide whether or not this is a sexual abuse case that they actually want to take on? Because let's be honest, it would be politicized, and whether or not it would be a good idea for them to take on the case, or whether or not that they could provide them with money to get rid of it. I just find it very interesting that instead of actually learning that they want to actually put it out there so that the church cannot hide it, they actually want to make it more internalized and actually have it so only one other person knows instead of the whole of the church or the whole of the bishopry or the whole of the priesthood in itself that's running the church or whatever in the area. It just seems very interesting. It seems more monosyllabic. I know that that's a term to describe the actual tone of a voice, but it seems very, very mono. It seems very singular. It seems very focused. It seems really weird to me that you would focus on one aspect and one person or one set of people to go and report the actual incidences. Go to the police. So let's read on. I've editorialized quite well on this one, so let's carry on. So the scandal plagued the Catholic Church will now mandate that it is 1 million nuns and priests tell church authorities and receive whistleblower protections. Great. Absolutely great. Did that help the people that were actually abused by the people in the United States or in the United Kingdom as a whole, or most places in Europe? Did that help? Or did it help when they actually went to the police and it was actually broken externally and not covered up internally, no matter who that they were going to? I wonder. When they hear of abuse, previously there was no requirement to report abuse allegations, and it was up to the individuals themselves to determine whether they wanted to report. Now, preface, and to make sure that we get this as correct as possible, the process in itself, the diocese, was actually already in the United States and was already in Europe as a whole and already in the United Kingdom. So technically, even under the abuse that was already laden down, these people were reportedly, asked and told that they need to report the allegations. Now, either they didn't report the allegations, or these people that were already designed to report these allegations did report these allegations, and the people that they were supposed to subside or sidestep, the people above them decided not to go against it. I wonder what could have actually happened. So let's carry on. Let's get past that little bit there. I don't really want to read more, actually, to be fair. I suppose we could do, as long as I don't have to sign up for anything. Good. So let's carry on. So the crimes of sexual abuse offend our Lord. Do they? Do they offend the Lord? That's nice. What about the poor people that have actually been sexually abused? They call physical, psychological, and spiritual damage to the victims. Well, at least you actually mentioned the victims, so that's good then. And harm the community of the faithful, the Pope wrote Thursday. You mean you've realised that if everybody keeps on getting diddled, that the people that get diddled will leave the church? God forbid that actually happens, eh? So the Pope's announcement comes at a critical juncture for the Catholic Church, as its failure to deal with sexual abuse in its ranks is once again making the headlines. Just this week, more than 300 Catholic clergy from diocese in New Jersey were publicly accused of abuse. So 300 Catholic clergy that already had diocese in practice already last week have now gone out and been accused of abuse. Now, I wonder if that the actual abuse was actually brought to light by them going to external sources rather than it being dealt with internally. I wonder. So the new rules didn't address what happened to an accused priest, and priests or nuns won't have to report such allegations to police, something survivors and advocates have long demanded. oh, dear me. Or in this case, oh dear God. I hate it when I'm actually correct. And I haven't read the story. This is just me reading it live to you and with you at this minute in time. That's honestly really amazing to me that this is what's happening. It really is. So, critically though, the new rule can be applied retroactively, meaning the church could see an onslaught of old cases as a result. Yeah, with people not reporting them, not necessarily actually going through. But let's hope that there is, because in some instances, especially with physical abuse, I don't think as long as there's evidence and physical evidence or evidence in itself, it should have a time frame on it or a time limit. Though I do understand there are, especially in America, there are statutes of limitations. So I do understand that the laws are different. But in my own personal opinion, in instances of abuse, especially, or murder, as long as there's evidence that is actually linking and there is actual evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt, or in general, enough to be able to take them to court, then they should be tried for it. In my opinion, but those are just my opinions. I don't even have to look into the chat to read that probably Jensen Quinn at this moment in time is probably typing repeatedly, because I can't see it, but I'm guessing, burn them with fire or something of that description. I can't really see at this minute in time, but I'm guessing that's what he's going to be putting. Well, we have a couple of people in chat because now I'm actually having a look. Yeah, the feminists unfortunately backed out, so yay, unfortunately. So I have linked up top if anybody wanted to come in as well. The Hangout link is up top. So if anybody wants to come in and have a chat with me, have a talk, and go through some of these stories with me, I'll be more than happy for them to come on and have a chat with me about almost anything. So if they wanted to do that as well, I'm on for about 2 hours. So if you go up to the top of the live chat, it will have a link to the Hangout. So if you want to come on, come on. Other than that, that's just let's just get on with this piece of shit, shall we? And show that it's not going too well. So furthermore, the rules will cover both children and vulnerable adults, matching Pope Francis' recent reporting requirements for Vatican personnel and Vatican diplomats. So let me just read that again. So furthermore, the rules will cover both children and vulnerable adults, matching Pope Francis's recent reporting requirements for Vatican personnel and Vatican diplomats. Yeah, which, if we go back to the top, the new law is that Catholic dioceses around the world will be required to report incidents of sexual abuse, as well as efforts by higher-ups to conceal such allegations to church authorities. And as we've just read, just last week, because let me just clarify the parts. While many dioceses in the United States and Europe have already developed such rules to ensure allegations are received confidentially, the scandal plagued Catholic Church. In other words, even though this law is already in practice in all of Europe, or at least most of Europe, and in most of the United States, yet there is a case of over 300 Catholic clergy that have been publicly accused of abuse. Now, publicly accused doesn't mean that it's been kept internally, because the dialysis would also mean that it would be kept internally, as they are a body that is supposed to go above the church and above the church, well, local church, above the local church and a local priest or bishop, to be able to go to the higher ups to actually report these crimes. Seems that that actual process doesn't seem to be working very well, does it? Doesn't seem to be working very well. So this is coming to the end of the story, I believe. Anyway, yes, it's coming to the end of the story. So last paragraph, so to speak. The new rules come after the Catholic Church held a global summit to address sex abuse in February. Catholic dioceses now have until June 1st, 2020 to institute a public and accessible method for reporting abuse allegations. US bishops will gather in Baltimore in June to discuss accountability procedures. So even the accountability procedures for this, for the people that have been just accused, haven't even been decided yet. They've just decided on how that they're going to obfuscate the actual reporting to make it look like they're actually doing something to, I don't know, amend the public perception. But yeah, not actually doing much. Sounds like we've got somebody with us. How are we doing today?
Hello, I'm all right. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Hello, Mr. Crumplepoint. Yay!
Now it's a real party.
Yes, it's been a while, Mr. Soap.
It hasn't been a while, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until just then.
Sorry, mate.
It's been a busy couple of weeks, but I've not had a chance to actually think about anything.
Well, you've been quite busy on your channel, haven't you, to be fair, mate?
Yeah,
Having
for
a
a
couple of
change.
decent interviews.
Hmm?
You've had a couple of decent interviews. Well, at least Spike, anyway.
Yeah, I had a good one with Spike, and then there was... I've been doing the flat pack and that still every week. But, yeah, I've just been trying to get more regular with it. Although I found an interesting thing. I don't know what to make of it, but it's interesting. Which was I was going over the traffic thing for my channel, and this hasn't translated into views, but what's happening is this strange website is firing loads of traffic my way. And then I had never heard of the website before, so I went and looked it up. And it is owned by Google, and it's a spam website to generate fake traffic.
Yeah.
Now, YouTube's owned by Google, so I'm like, right, why is Google essentially attacking itself through my channel? It was very strange. I don't know what the heck's going on with that.
See, I have no idea what's going on with my channel at the minute. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with all the subscribers that has actually subscribed. But at the minute, I'm somehow over, well, I think I've just hit 910 subs. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm fucking happy about that. But with that's almost 300, I think it's 260, roughly, in around about 2 to 3 days. I have no idea where all of these people have come from. No idea. If I knew what it was, I would bottle it and do more.
Yes. Yeah, so that was a weird one. The YouTube thing's a bit odd. I've noticed recently, not to divert too crazily off your topic, but too long. But I just keep finding that, and you saw me talk about this on a couple of streams, and you're one of the exceptions. But a lot of the stuff I see in my subscription feed is just the same video, essentially, over and over again, done by different people. So it doesn't really matter what day it is. It's like everybody's doing the same story, and it's like, when did YouTube turn into this? It's so strange. I remember YouTube just used to be more, to use a dirty word, diverse than it is now.
Well, I think that might actually be one of the reasons why my channel may be doing better, simply because that I generally don't do the same topics everybody else is doing. Generally, don't get me wrong, there are parallels, obviously, but generally I don't do the exact same topic. So maybe that's what's helping me.
Yeah, the thing is, you'll do stuff that is not actually in the news, so it'll be a news topic, but it won't be in the news cycle.
Yeah.
And you do it in your own damn time, so it's like you get the sort of the news junkies and red-pilled people coming to watch your stuff, but it's not the same topic as will be covered on BBC News, unless we're doing one of these sorts of streams.
Yeah.
And even then, because it's a conversation, it's slightly different, I guess.
Well, it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a conversation, but unfortunately, I think the Pacific Time sort of screwed her up. She's a bus driver as well, bless her. But I was really looking forward to actually having that type of conversation because she was more of a second wave feminist, and I wanted to hear what her opinions were of third wave feminists. I've heard bits of it, and she's not a fan. So I wanted to hear what her actual opinion was on that one. So it's unfortunate because I really wanted this discussion to actually work and go, but sometimes you just can't help timing issues.
Yeah, and that happened to me the other week. I was supposed to be interviewing a guy. Same thing happened. So it can't be helped.
Were you able to listen to the story that I was talking about?
No, I just saw the Vice thing, and then that was it.
Basically, the story was the Catholic Church has put out new rules that instead of you going to report things to the police, that you now need to go to report to the Catholic diocese, which I actually had to learn what that word meant because I had no idea what it meant because obviously I'm not religious or anything. But yeah, it turns out that they said in the actual story as well that the UK, Europe, and most of the US actually already has that law or practice by the Catholics already put into place. So nothing's actually changed. It just makes it sound that they're changing it from other way.
So, is this a recommendation or is this some kind of weird bylaw thing?
No, this is an internal law by the Catholics. So basically, what?
Oh,
what
but it's
the
not a
law-
legal thing though.
No, it's all internal. How they're going to deal with sexual abuse claims internally. So basically, if say for instance you were a Catholic priest or clergyman or whatever, and you raped me, for instance, but I couldn't go to you or the bishop to tell you or the bishop what happened. Obviously, I would have to go to a specific diocese, a Catholic diocese, to be able to report it to them, and then they would bypass your local church and go up to a higher bishop. And yeah, I don't see how that's going to go anywhere because it's still up to the church whether or not that they're going to take any process on it rather than it actually being put into the open.
Yeah, it's a very corporate sounding thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, we would rather deal with this matter internally. So while there's obviously no legal requirement to only tell our people, we would rather deal with it ourselves, and we'll send it up to upper management rather than middle management. It's a very strange thing, but I see what you mean. It's like this is the thing. People assume news used to, well, the clue's in the name. It used to be new. Now what they do is because the news cycle is forever going on, and
Always
the
recycling as well, by the sound of it.
Hmm?
Or it's always recycling as well now, by the sound of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's probably more. That's a far better word because it's like they're just trying to justify their jobs. A lot of these journalists, so they'll just either make shit up or come up with something from like 2014 and present it as if it just happened. And then people get like, you see, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but this happened a lot last year, where all these sort of trending topics and things that were making like the national news were actually very old stories that had only just created a buzz at that point. And it was usually because they wanted to affect some kind of social manipulation on their part. Like, oh, this law didn't pass. Let's rile everybody up, even though it's a year later. And the news do it a lot. They mainly do it with court cases, I've noticed, but they do it with everything. It used to be mainly court cases, and now they do it with loads of different things. So they would maybe do it like, a child rapist has been found in, I don't know, Sunderland, and it's like, oh, what? I didn't hear about that. And then it's like, oh, but it's actually just the trial of the guy that we caught 4 years ago. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, this one was quite recent. I think the date, because I've got rid of the bloody source now, but I think that the date was it on the 10th of May. No, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, 10th of May. So it's not that long ago. It was only about, what, 8 days ago at most? 8 days ago that it came out. And a week before that was when 300 clergymen or Catholic clergy were actually accused just at this moment in time of as having sexual abuse laid them against them. And that's in New Jersey, which still has the report it to the dialysis. So it's not like it's fucking done anything.
You mean the diocese?
Yeah, that'll do.
Dialysis is something else.
Yeah, well, I'm going to call it dialysis because that's basically what they're on.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad comparison. Dialysis is what those priests that enjoy the communion wine a bit too much end up on.
True. I think Red Feather in the chat has made quite an excellent question, though I don't actually know what the answer is to that. So what are they going to do to people who go to the police and bypass them? I'm not 100% sure because they can't really stop them from being Catholics. I mean, I suppose if they're like altar boys or choir boys, I suppose that they could kick them out, if you know what I mean, of doing anything with the church.
Yeah.
I suppose.
It'll be like a shadow ban.
Yeah, they'll get a shadow ban for actually reporting truth.
It depends, though. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe it's just the assumption that something will happen will be enough. Because
Could be.
People have a tendency to trust systems to start with, so that deals with most people, and then the people that don't trust the system implicitly will think, well, they're trying to do something about it, so that's okay. And then some of the people will be scared that there'll be repercussions of some, like, probably not excommunicated, but this is the thing, is like people think that their souls are on the line, so they're going to be unlikely to take risks in that regard. And then there's also going to be some people who are just, like you said, I think if the only repercussions they could really deal out would be things like not allowing you to use the church's functions, like for weddings and shit like that. That's all I can see. And like what you said, if you're part of the, like, if you're a beadle or a choir boy or something, you'd probably get kicked out. But
Yeah.
I can't see them doing anything else. I don't think they're allowed to do anything else. I don't even know they would go that far. I think they just want people to do this, and on trust, which is ironic.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just find it really interesting that they were, what we're going to do is we're going to do this brand new law, and this is going to make everything okay. But in most of the civilized world, we already have this law, and in most of the civilized world is where most of the abuse seems to happen. Go fish. I just found that really interesting. This is our big claim of how we're going to stop child molestation or sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. Just don't check, but we already do this in most of the countries that it's already happened in. But we're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I get from it anyway. I get it as literally a PR stunt for them to try and say, well, look, we're doing something. What more do you want from us?
Yeah, I think so. And there's so much money and influence on the line as well, because this isn't, it's not just a religion issue. It's when you have that much structural power as the Catholic Church does, it starts being a political force as much as anything else. And so that's another issue.
Yeah. Would you like to move on to a story that we have more of a basis of trying to understand? It comes with a video and everything.
It's entirely up to yourself. If you want to talk more about this, that's fine, but I'm happy to move on to.
I think we've basically covered most of it. It's basically a law it's a Catholic law that's come into place in countries that don't have it, but in the countries that already do have it, it's done fuck all to do anything. So I don't think it's going to do anything, and I think this is just done for show, to be honest. We're doing something.
Yeah, that's how it feels to me.
So let's watch this, because More Religion has decided that let's just watch the video. Obviously, this is propaganda.
For the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I was contacted by Michael's mother. At church, she approached me and said that she heard that I had been looking for a babysitter for my kids. She approached me saying that if my ex-husband and I ever wanted to get away, that Michael would be a great babysitter. I was getting ready to put my youngest son, who was 4 at the time, on the bus. He started crying, and he said, I don't want Michael to babysit for us again. He says to me, Mom, he makes me suck his privates. And the world just sort of stopped. It's raining.
Helen belongs to the small group of people who say they've had their lives shattered twice.
I have to keep on stopping it because otherwise I will get a copyright strike. So obviously at this moment in time, you have 2 Mormons or Latter-day Saints or All Saints Latter-day Saints that have had a person or people that have suggested to have this babysitter. The babysitter is part of the Mormon Church because unfortunately in the Mormon Church, everything is internalized. Everything you need is in the Mormon community, basically. So this is going on in their community, and that's what this story is about so far. You have the perpetrator themselves going around masquerading as a babysitter to take advantage of the trust that goes around in that community. Do you think that I've got that correct so far, Mr. Crumplepoint?
Yeah, it seems to be the way it's working.
I will have to pause it again halfway through because otherwise...
I was going to say, are you allowed to play any of this? Because they're becoming downright retarded with their copyright policy.
As long as it's less than a minute, and then I speak for a little bit longer, it'll be fine.
Cool.
Though to be fair, I suppose I could just, in other words, I will link it in description box down below. But it's not an actual story, so we are going to have to listen to it.
Oh, it's Vice.
Of course, it's Vice. Yay! No story. I'm not going to write. Here's a video.
First by the sexual abuse of a child, and again by the role of their church in the abuse.
So that's actually my house right there, my old house.
So how long did you live in this neighborhood?
About 7 years.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Advert. But yeah, it seems very interesting. Like she's been either forced out of the community or she's left the community by her own admission. I would imagine that she's left by her own volition, to be fair. And that's just one of 2 adverts. By the way, another 30 seconds. I love Vice. Vice is amazing. Why did I pick this again? Because nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. What do you think of the story so far, Mr. Point?
Aside from it being very horrible and harrowing, not much yet. My immediate thoughts are kind of, it's easy to take the piss out of people, so you could probably just go, oh well, that's what you get for being, in a cult or whatever, and it's like, is the Latter-day Saints, and nobody does take them seriously, but it's too horrible to go down that route, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that I could go down the route of saying that anybody that gets sexually abused for any shape or form, especially when it's children involved in this, but any in general, deserves anything that happens because of religion or because of a thought process. I would even say that, especially children of Nazis, maybe you could argue the point for Nazis themselves. Maybe, I don't know. Depends on what you call a Nazi, I suppose. But even the children under that ideology, they were born into the ideology. They didn't choose it. So even in that aspect, I would still say that the children are innocent. They don't know any better. So why would you condemn them just because they're in a cult or a religion or ideology? I don't understand that mentality, especially
because the reason I bring that up as well is because I've heard this in regards to like Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff like that. Like people will kind of, something horrible will happen and people will just be like, oh well, that's what you get, and it's like, holy shit, you like that happens a lot in person. That's not even the internet. I hear stuff like that. It's like, wow, what? So your problem with these people is that they have a belief system you don't like, and that's your response. But
pretty much,
this is horrible. This is like everybody's nightmare, isn't it?
Pretty much, well, it's every parent's fucking nightmare, isn't it? That you trust the community that you're in, whatever community that you think that is a good community for yourself, or that you would trust yourself, that trusting community, leaving your child with that community, and then somebody in that community abusing the trust that you had, and then completely and utterly destroying the innocence of your child. I'll put it that way so people understand it better.
Mm-hmm. And there's also, this is the scary thing and the weird thing about these, I'm just going to say cults, is they restrict and they restrict everybody in them from integration with the normies, and then they also, like what you said, they provide everything you need.
Yeah,
which is also I find very dangerous. So because the thing is, what you said about the community provides everything you need. It's like, this isn't a friend, although that happens too. Family, friends, and like you can't protect anybody at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about it. People might want to blame institutions, but the thing is that the people, like these aren't pedo factories. The pedos are everywhere, which sounds. I said that in a very paranoid, strange way. They're everywhere, but you know what I mean. Like it's not.
No, I completely understand where you're going with it. It doesn't matter what section of society that you want to use. Politicians, footballers, coaches, sports people, teachers, clergymen, any sort of section or subsection of society, you can find people of that ilk in that society if you look hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what you were meaning.
Yeah. I think the thing is that with this article, if I give Vice the benefit of the doubt for a change, I guess it is very alarming when it is systematized in this way. It's one thing to have, the creepy relative or like you've accidentally made friends with some monstrosity, but it's quite another thing to have it like basically it's an open secret and this is just how they do things in that system. That's pretty alarming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the worst part of this is not necessarily the distrust of a singular person breaking the community or even a couple of people breaking the community. It's the fact that they actually had a victims hotline, and that victims hotline was actually used to hide claims of the sexual abuse. I think that's even worse than the abuse because it's not them dealing with it. It's them almost not condoning it, but, you know, giving it a side pass. The same as what we would classify as the Catholics themselves. They are as guilty as the people that are doing the raping because they're not doing anything to stop it.
Yeah, I would say it was condoning because when it comes to something that serious, if you're not getting rid of it, you're condoning it. Because if you knew, for example, that even a corner shop, you know, near you, the guy had been in that sort of thing, you would never go to that shop again. So the idea that you would continue to work with somebody who you'd heard had been doing that sort of stuff is like,
well, in the area that I actually grew up, not the area I'm in now, in the area that I grew up, if we knew a corner shop bloke did anything like that and we actually had proof that he was being investigated, he wouldn't have the shop anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So this is another thing as well, because when the authorities or the communities don't deal with this sort of thing, I saw a story somewhere. I clicked off it straight away. Like I deliberately clicked off it because it's just misery porn. But I saw that a guy had been murdered who was being investigated, but the accusation was false.
Yeah,
that was a horrible one.
Yeah, unfortunately, people do get too much emotion. Too much emotion seems to ride through. That's the reason why we have a justice system, whether you agree with it or not. That's the reason why we do have one. I suppose we should carry on with this video, otherwise we'll be here all fucking night and my missus will kill me. Oh, sound.
And the trees are just a little bit bigger.
Helen converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as a teenager. She says it was like getting an instant extended family.
When my oldest was born, he had special needs. The support I got from the church, it was a lifesaver. You sort of become so integrated with everybody. You have Sunday worship service, you have weekend activities, you have during the week activities for your children or for women's or Relief Society. So even if you're kind of spread out a little bit, everybody knows everybody.
That intimacy is fun.
Yeah, the only problem with that intimacy is that all of those extra curricular activities, if you wanted to put it that way, is all to do with affirming your faith. You have midweek workshops or believing in faith and Bible studies in their way. You have the Sundays as well, where they do exactly the same thing, Sunday schools and whatnot. So it's not a case of always just doing the community side of things. But, I think that's more to do with the trust and the levels of trust that humans go to themselves anyway, as in that they will look and trust a community that have never been a part of for the support that they give you. I think it's always a true fact of life. If something looks too good, it probably is.
Yeah, that's another weird thing with some of these more creepy religions as well, because it's one thing. It's more of a thing in America, but it used to be a big thing in Britain as well. It's like the church community, people would do things like that, the activities and get-togethers and, whatever. But like you say, it would be, you'd met the people through the church. It wouldn't be like every activity was a religious-based activity. And I think that's partly to sort of condition people. And I think it's to put in this constant guilt of like, oh, you don't go against us because look at all the shit we're doing for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's like a single mom as well. So if she's a single mom and then there's a partially disabled kid or whatever it is, then that's just going to make you more reliant on outside people as well. And on a side note, I have to say, like, this is the most awfully made video. Like, why is it playing sort of children's cartoon music? And the woman's like, she's telling us about this nice, normal, completely light-hearted community. Like, by the tone of her voice, it's just so bizarre. It's like it doesn't match the tone of what they're talking about at all.
I mean, I suppose that you could say that they're building up the idea of what she had of the community when she came into it. So if you think about it, for instance, for you as an example, going into a comic book community, for instance, or graphic novel community, and thinking everything's fine and spending week in and week out with certain people from that community and trusting them and then leaving a kid with them. I suppose
Yeah,
it's
I
that
agree,
kind
but
of
it's like
instant.
they opened with rape and then went on to that. It's like,
Yeah.
this is so, like, just from a filmmaking perspective, this is so awful.
Yeah, to be fair, they should have built up with the point of the trust building first and then gone, well, you know, all that trust that we just built up, rape. That they should
I
have gone
wouldn't
that
even
way
done that.
rather than
This is a
rape, and
problem.
here's how it happened.
I wouldn't have even done that. I think this is a problem people have with these sorts of videos or news outlets. It's like, just treat it like a serious subject. It's not a BuzzFeed. Well, it basically is.
Yeah, it basically is.
That's what I mean. It's like, this is not like a story, if that makes sense. This is too important to be like, oh, here's a bait and switch, or here's a surprise for the audience, or here's a big tone shift. It's like, no, make it 5 minutes long, and from the beginning to the end, it's like, this is dreadful, and leave it there. Don't try any of your shit.
Pretty much, because that's basically what this is. It's around about a 5-minute video, and
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I
allowing me
want to
just
play
from
all of it.
the beginning when
To
I
be
heard the
honest,
music. And you guys in the chat will be able to unsee it now if you didn't notice it already.
to be fair, I'm not even sure that I want to play it. I suppose a better as I've started, I will finish, as a university challenge would say. Well, is it university? Yeah, it is university challenge. But I'm more interested in the other stories that I've got lined up, because one of them is to do with Republican Seth Mollington joins 2020 race. No, sorry, representative. I hate the way that they do that, because they don't put that it's a DC or an R. They just go rep, and I just think Republican straight away when it's
Or what they do is, when they find out the person is a racist, they change the thing from Democrat to Republican, like
Yeah.
the Ralph Northam thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm quite interested in that, because he basically says that we need to look at ourselves in the mirror when dealing with racism, which basically implies that he's racist and you shouldn't vote for him.
I speak for yourself, exactly. But yeah, I think we should probably just speed through this one and move on, because it's like, there's not much to say about this one other than, well, that's fucking horrible.
Pretty much. I mean, basically, it's a community that took somebody in. By the looks of it, she was a single mother, and I'm just saying that by the way that it looks, because she was looking for support. So to me, it looks like she was a single mother, teenager, because that's what she said. She converted when she was younger, and she was looking for support. I'm only going on what she said.
Scientologists, by the way, they do the same thing. They look for, I guess what you could say, incels on the men part, and young single mums on the female part, like people who are very suggestible, essentially, and prey on them.
I mean, what I'll do is, if anybody actually wants to watch this, well, I'll try and link all of the stories actually in the comment section down below. I'll pin them all at the end of the live stream. So if people want to have a look at them, that they can. But basically, the story is the Mormon Church has put up a victims hotline to hide aspects of sexual abuse that was going on in the community. That's the story.
And the moral of the story is, phone the hotline and the police.
No, the moral of the story is, don't bother with the fucking hotline. Phone the fucking police. Don't do anything to do with the church or the community that you're in if the community that you're in already has a paedophile or a rapist already in it. Just phone the police. That's the moral of the story. Phone the police. Regardless. Phone them. Save your life and save theirs. For fuck's sake, phone the police. That's all I have to say on that. I'm going to be a forest on this one. That's all I have to say about that. So that, I suppose, let's go on to the Self-Mollington part, which is now going on to the root, and I hate the root because there's adverts fucking everywhere as well on that one. So yay, thank you, root.
Super root.
Yeah, super root, or is it Groot? I can't remember.
No, I said Suk Marut.
I'm just saying the root, super root. Super root. Right, so as you can see, I'm not going to play the video this time because I don't see the point. I will link all the stories down below. There is a transcript basically of what he says, but I think we'll just go for the transcript as it's a little bit easier. So the newest presidential candidate, Seth Moulton, or Moulton, whatever his name is, says white people need to look ourselves in the mirror when dealing with racism. I can already tell that I'm going to love this story. So in an exclusive interview with The Root, which obviously if nobody knows what The Root is, I think I'm fair in saying that it's black nationalism propaganda, basically, or black power propaganda, probably would be more of a better description. Would you say that that's a fair representation of The Root? A black power sort of propaganda machine?
I don't know. I'm not that familiar with it. I know it to be unadulterated horse shit, but I don't know what flavor.
Well, let's have a look.
I would like to also just point out that, and this goes for my kind of political stance as well, but this article, the entire left, most of the right, and my political persuasions can be summed up in the following phrase to Mr. Moulton, which is, "What's with this wee shit?"
Yep. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. So, in an exclusive interview with The Root, U.S. Congressman Seth Moulton, DMA, said that he supports a Marshall Plan for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and that white people need to look themselves in the mirror when confronting the impact that racism has on American society. Obviously, meaning today, not what has happened, but what's happening for racism on the American society today. Interesting. This is a quotation from him and from the transcript. I think a lot of people in white America, black America wants handouts. So he's trying to quote, basically, this is quoting him trying to pretend to quote somebody else. So he's saying, I think a lot of people in white America think, quotation for somebody he thinks is a dumb hillbilly. Sorry, Mad. I mean, sorry. Oh, black America wants handouts. So that's what he thinks that other people on the opposite side are thinking. So straight away, that's obviously wrong, but let's carry on. So he carries on to say, no, that's not what I'm hearing. They want opportunities, Milton said. What opportunities? They already have affirmative action, like in workplace and for universities. If they want it, they can get it. It depends if they want it. Now, yeah, there's certain situations in certain areas where it's probably unlikely that they'll be able to get the opportunity to go that way because of the area in which they live in. But is that to do with the people that are around in that area that are also thinking in the same way? Or is that due to the racism of the white man keeping them down? I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong on that one. What do you think, Crumple?
I think they just hopelessly don't understand what they're talking about. And I really do genuinely believe that it's not a dismissive sort of throwaway, I don't need to think about you people anymore. It's like, no, I legitimately don't think they understand what they're talking about. For example, they keep going on about like systemic racism, but then they start talking about like personal racism. So it's like, well, no, systemic racism would be that the people in the system aren't racist, but the system is racist.
Yeah,
and they talk about it like the people in it are racist, and it's like, okay, so you don't know what you're talking about there. And then like when you said affirmative action, let's not make any bones about it. It's called preferential treatment.
yeah.
The way it's done, it can be done in such a way that you could say it's just affirmative action, but that's not how they do it. It's at the expense of other people, the Jews and the Asians, that they get marked down and black people get marked up. And it's not everywhere, but that then breeds more resentment rather than tolerance. And yeah, it's very easy to make up a bullshit strawman argument and say that's what your political enemies think. But that's just because he's obviously a demagogue and is trying to rile up a crowd. He hasn't actually,
No,
he's not thinking of specific people when he says that.
no, I agree. I agree. He's
Quoting a real person.
thinking of an overarching idea that's been made up by the media that this is what certain people that he's against think. You can quite easily see that by the oversimplification of the actual arguments that are going on, rather than it actually being a nuanced stuff, as the left would say. So let's carry on with this story. So he carries on to say, which is another quotation, they want the same opportunities as a white kid like myself had growing up in a middle-class town in Massachusetts. So what about all of the white people that grew up in white trailer park trash areas and that are still there? Do they all need the same opportunities as the middle-class man that you had as well? Or is it a case of a class issue and not a fucking race issue? I wonder. I can't think on that one.
What's he going to do about that? And that's not an opportunity. Like, he's. Hang on, I need to take a few steps back up this escalator of stupid. He said they don't want handouts, they want opportunities. And then he said, we need to do this, and then quotes something that cannot be given to people by way of an opportunity. That's like, where you're born isn't an opportunity. Like, the opportunity would be being able to raise your kids there. You know,
Well,
like, you've been born.
I think the next part of this is really interesting because this shows ignorance on his part. That shouldn't be too much to ask for every American citizen, no matter what the color of your skin. In other words, that anybody that's a black middle class person, which there are quite a few, not as much in general because of the racial diversities that is in America, but there are quite a few black and middle class people. Does that mean that they are now no longer any of your concern because that they do have the same opportunity? In other words, they were born into somewhere that has slightly more affluent area? That has nothing to do with fucking skin color then. It has everything to do with class.
It just shows you what a fantasy world these people live in, though. It's like, he wants 350 million people to be living in suburban Massachusetts. Like, I'm being a bit facetious about the location, but
yeah,
it's absurd, the idea that the entire country could be middle class.
That's the thing that really annoys me about people in general, on the left, should we say, or people that think that this type of ideology or idealism, I'm going to use idealism because that's what they idolize, this idea, that they are trying to push a narrative where, oh, everybody should have middle class heritage or middle class in general. The problem is that when you hire everything up to the middle class, that middle class then becomes lower wealth. If you look back in history, our lowest class is now almost at the same level as middle to higher class 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It escalates all the time. It elevates. That's the way that societies generally move forward. Yes, there are outliers where there are still homeless and there's still people that are in poverty. Nobody's going to deny that. But that's what happens when you have a meritocratic system, where you have people that are there to actually use their own skills or their own initiative or their own work rates to be able to pull themselves up, so to speak. The problem that people like Milton or Moulton actually has as a point is that he wants everybody to be at the same level already. The problem is that when people say this, they have no idea how they're going to get people to that level. They just say that that's what they want. The thing is, me as a quite ardent capitalist, I'm not a complete capitalist or an ANCAP, but me as somebody that thinks that that system is the best, would want everybody to be a middle class person as well. But I don't believe in fucking trying to tax everybody to high heaven to get that, because all that does is lower the disparity between people, meaning that people won't want to work hard to begin with, which means innovation stops and so on and so forth, whatnot.
Well, he's not talking about working people anyway. He's talking about black people. He's not talking about working class people.
Ooh, burn.
Oh, it's true.
Oh, burn. Right, let's carry on. I've screamed at the computer for long enough now. Moulton said that the community policing has failed. Okay, saying that police officers here
fucking needed.
that it's definitely bloody needed. It's definitely bloody needed. Yes, but apparently saying that the police officers here will wear more body armor than he did when he was a Marine in Iraq. Well, that says two things. One, is it more dangerous to be a police officer in Middle America now, or did the army not care for you enough?
No, it's because police officers have to wear stab vests, which are thicker, and American police officers need to sometimes wear stab vests and Kevlar, which makes it even thicker. So it's actually a completely technical reason.
I understand that. I understand that. That's why the reason why I was saying it's actually more dangerous in Middle America than it was for people fighting a war in Iraq.
Yeah. Also, a military-grade flak jacket is going to be more robust, so they can make the materials thinner and then pile it up.
Which apparently them having protective armor, this is him saying this, is another part of the problem with policing in America, he says, is that too many Americans do not feel that officers are truly trained to protect them. Now, taking my right-sided head off and putting my central head on, I'd have to agree with him on this. I think 3 months training for a police officer, or 3 to 6 months training for a police officer to serve and protect and deal with almost any other situation that most people would run away from with a gun, probably needs more training, in my opinion. But I think that of anything anyway, you can never have more than enough training, especially when dealing with people that are probably going to hurt you in some way, shape, or form. Conflict training, de-escalation tactics, and so on and so forth. I do think that he's correct on that aspect.
You get mentored on probation though when you're a police officer. It's not like they just get sent out on their own with fucking. The way this guy's talking about it, you'd think that it was like you're getting your Judge Dredd outfit and your gun and fucking punted out into the middle of the street. Off the top. It's like, no, you spend months under the tutelage of a more senior police officer.
Well, don't they normally do partners anyway, regardless, all the way through their like their constable career, if you know what I mean?
They're all the way through, but at the beginning you're under the person.
Yeah, but what I meant was that you're also going to be with a partner. Generally, those partners normally have a service history disparity. In other words, one's normally been on the force slightly longer than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're generally going to be mentored all the way through anyway.
Yeah.
Which is what I was meaning. But I mean, you still need to have some form of proper training on de-escalation tactics. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that the police do a bad job. They have a lot of shit to deal with, especially when somebody's coming at you with a knife or a gun. It's not the same thing as what it is in London. Well, I suppose it is nowadays. But that's another story. I'm going to move on before I get stuck on that bit.
I just hate this stupid. Like, I mean, even think back to the days over in Britain here, where cops had like a more military style uniform and they were taken seriously, and now they're dressed like fucking rock concert stewards and nobody takes them seriously because they have to wear these bloody day glow jackets and everything. They've got the hats and stuff. Like when they used to have to wear the helmets and what looked essentially like a military, like a dress, not military fatigues, but a military dress uniform. It was like, it has a psychological effect on the police and the people around them. Like, you become like you're holding up the office, as it were, rather than, well, looking like a steward. And yeah. So I never saw this thing of, oh, they look too intimidating, blah blah blah. It's like, get a grip.
Yeah, no, I completely not agree with you. I do completely not agree with you. I think that he's taking things way out of proportion on that one. But I do think that they do need more training, but not to the level that he's trying to insist that they don't get any. But well, I do think he does.
He's not even. Well, I don't know the guy personally, obviously, but he's not talking about having a. I don't think that this guy believes that there's crime. Like this is a massive part of like this crazy. Not even liberal, but you know what I mean, like them. the sort of radical left thing of like, you can't be a perpetrator of crime, you're just always a victim if you're poor.
Yeah.
Until it's your laptop stolen, of course. And
then you want them completely and utterly ridiculed and sent to prison because of it, regardless of what their race are.
Yeah.
Surprising that. But yeah, He put on to say, adding that he knows he doesn't have to teach his daughter how to make police officers feel comfortable during traffic stops in the way black parents do. Then you're a fucking idiot. And if she starts getting mouthy, she will also get shot, especially considering that more white people get shot than black people, surprisingly. But, you know, I suppose you have some sort of form of privilege that you want to try and virtue signal to the people that you're talking about. I just don't get that. I don't need to tell my daughter to be polite to police or comfortable when talking to fucking police officers. If anybody feels comfortable talking to a police officer that doesn't know them personally, then you're a bit weird. Because you always feel a little bit uncomfortable. Now, there are degrees of it, but you always feel generally a little bit uncomfortable because you're always wondering why the fuck they're doing it.
Yeah,
At least in my
you're like,
opinion.
oh shit, what did I do wrong?
Exactly.
I have heard, like, we know of, like, the stories. This is why it's like I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because of this fucking moron. But like I have heard stories, for example, about people being pulled over like literally every day because they were one of like 10 black guys in a neighborhood and shit like that, and it's absurd and ridiculous, and people have gone through that. But they use these sort of fringe cases and try and say that's everything. And it's like, because you can't deny the fringe case because it happened, but you can deny that it happens to everybody, you know? Obviously, it doesn't happen much to this guy because he's going on about, oh, I think the police wear too much body armor. It's like, well, you obviously don't. You've obviously had the privilege of never having seen a fucking criminal.
Well, there is that. Though I do believe that he fought in Iraq, as far as I'm aware. So it's not like he's one of those
Oh,
people.
so he's purposefully dishonest then.
I would imagine so. Yes, I imagine he's purposely playing to a captive audience, should we say?
Yeah, and Marines are all like frontline shit. Did you say he was a Marine? So it's not like.
I believe so.
Yeah, so it's not like he would have been sitting at a desk. It's like he would have been out there. So that's what I mean. It's like it's got to be a level of dishonesty there.
I would imagine so, but as we both said before, we don't know him personally. We don't know what he really thinks, but from what we get from that, that's the connotations that we can take away from it, I suppose. So Moulton himself talked about a wide range of issues. Yes, issues, just like the tissue, including his plans for affordable healthcare. What, you mean taxing the rich and extortionate prices and then wondering why everybody leaves? Because that's going to work. Reflections on Travon Martin killing. In other words, hands up, don't shoot. Oh no, was that Brown? I can't remember. There's so many people that they put up as a bloody martyr, and it turns out that they were actually the ones doing the wrong stuff.
Yeah, we've got a few of them over here as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. If he regrets challenging Nancy Pelosi's leadership role, well, of course he regrets it because he fucking didn't win. The racist attacks on Congresswoman Rashid Tlaib. Now, I don't know anything about Rashid Tlaib, but I do know about Ilhan Omar. I do know about her, and most of them weren't racist attacks. They were calling her un-American. They weren't saying she wasn't. Well, they were in a generalization by the way that they were trying to say that she was supporting of terrorism rather than American civilians and people. That's what they were trying to say. They weren't trying to say that because of your race and because of your religiosity that you're not American. It was what you said that made you un-American in what you said, not by the way that you were. But I think Rashid Tlaib was very, very similar in what she said as well. So I think it's similar, but don't quote me on that one. I don't 100% know on that one.
Is she? No, she's the one I think that was saying that she completely made up the Palestinians offered the Jews safe haven in what is now Israel after the war, and the evil those evil Israelis took over the whole place, rather than the truth, which was the Palestinians were working with Hitler the whole time. And I think she was, because she made this ridiculous gaffe about she didn't mean it how this sounds, but it was like she said something along the lines of the Holocaust gave her a calm feeling or something like that. It's fucking hilarious. Like, there's context to it regarding what I just said about this bullshit about them offering the Jews safe haven, and that's what gave her the calming feeling, despite it being a lie. But it's like the way it came out. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I think that's her. And Ilhan Omar was the one that made fun of her and the Jewish. I don't know if he was a congressman, some kind of representative. Her and the Jewish guy were like trying to out oppression each other. It was quite amusing.
All right, I know that she was the one that was basically laughing at how professors talk about Al Qaeda and all the others, and how she was talking about 9/11 and everything else like that. I know that one was her. Rashid Tlaib, I'm not 100% sure, though. I'm pretty sure that she was called out for anti-Semitism, as you kind of alluded to. So I don't think that they were racist attacks. I think that they had legitimate criticism, personally. But that's carry on.
Oh, there were racist attacks in the sense that there was attacks carried out on a racist.
Probably, yes. I suppose you could use that as a terminology, yes. I suppose plans on how to stop voter suppression and state-level legislation that's attacking abortion rights. Now, what they mean by voter suppression is ID laws, that you need ID to be able to vote. You know, to prove that you're, one, a citizen, and two, you are who you say you are. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. I think you should have ID to vote. You need ID to work, so why would you not need ID to vote?
I need to take in my voting card if I want to vote.
I'm on holiday, unfortunately. I can't. Well, to be fair, on the last local elections, I had to take in a form of identity as well. They just started putting IDs in with it as well. I needed to take either a photo card license or a bill and another form of identity with me. But, you know, driver's license, that generally covers it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do that here, but I think that the taking in your polling card is essentially an ID.
Well, that's what they used to do for us. I mean, it's only literally just come in, but I don't have a problem with voter ID. I don't have a problem with ID voting. I mean, I don't see.
Why would you? This is the issue. It's like, what reasonable objection is there to one person, one vote?
Well, yeah, I think it's a case of the left, and I don't want to mischaracterize their arguments, but I think a lot of people say that they don't have forms of ID, and it's too expensive to get forms of ID. Which then it myself means that, well, you don't have a provisional license or a form of citizenship or a bill or anything else like that you can use as a form of identity.
Yeah,
are you ever going to find any fucking work?
That's the thing with the difference between the photo ID and the just taking in something like a polling card or, like you said, like a fucking gas bill or something. Because I don't have any photo ID that's in date. Because I don't drive and I don't have any other reason to carry ID, so I don't have anything. Like I have no need for a passport. I don't have a driver's license, so like I have like a train thing that was out of date. So that's it. That's all I've got. But I've got I've got my credit card. I've got all my correspondence with companies to my address, and I've got.
Well, that's more than enough to be able to get you to vote. Basically, if you're in England, you have 3 sections of identity or stuff that identifies you. Any photo card license, so for instance, a passport or a driving license or any such similar licensing, classifies you as an A-class license. Any B-class identification is stuff like bills, credit cards, anything with your name on and your address on. And then C is just like bus passes, stuff like that, student identifications and stuff like that. So with B class, you can have 2 or 3 versions of it, and that's equivalent of having an A class. You only need an A class to be able to do most things to prove who you are. But again, I still have no problems with ID laws.
No, me neither. That's what I mean. It's like you could make the case about like photo ID, but normal ID of like just anything. There's no reasonable objection to it, in my opinion. And then making this some kind of race issue is just downright retarded.
Well, I find race issue really interesting because are there not white people that are really as poor as them that can't afford it as well? But does it matter that the white people, under their idea and ideology, does it matter that they can't vote under that idea? Or is it just that you're trying to protect black people because you're trying to put them on a pedestal because they're not as good as other people? Is it your racism that you're trying to call out, or is it others?
White people don't know what it's like to be poor.
Of course not. Never, Mr. Sanders. Never. I suppose that we should go on to the attacking abortion rights.
Yeah, let's do that. I think it's a load of shit, and we should continue to attack them as long as we have breath in our body. There we go.
I'm slightly different. I don't think that it should be a case of it being as bad as what the Alabama bill is. Maybe something more similar to the way that the heartbeat bill is. Maybe something similar to that kind of meet in the middle, personally. But I do think that there should be some sort of regulation on abortion from what it is at this minute in time. But at the same time, there definitely needs to be some, in my opinion, obviously other people will differ, but in my opinion, there definitely needs to be some first exceptions in the actual bill itself for certain situations which can be discussed. But also as well, I think that there should be a case of if you generally don't want a child and it hasn't had its heart beating or it can't feel pain or whatever, then I think that there has a possibility of doing that. I don't like it. I think that life begins at conception, but I think that we should be able to meet people in the middle, personally.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with it is not even the abortion thing. My thing is the sort of peripheral issues around it. Like, why are we hearing about this and the arguments they're making? Like, not is it right or wrong, but the examples they use and stuff like that that's my issue with it, which I find.
Well, I was talking to Mad Dodge a couple of days ago. I think it was 2 days ago, on one of his streams, and I don't think that you can really have an abortion argument on a factual basis.
No.
It's a moralistic argument, regardless, and it all depends on the morals of the person to how that they're going to argue for it or against it. So I don't think abortion is one of those factor-driven arguments that you could argue with. Apart from the fact that life does begin at conception, because when that happens, DNA is actually its own.
Yeah, this is the thing that annoys me. Like when that's what I mean about the peripheral issues are almost more worth talking about than the actual, fetus status issues, because that's kind of a personal opinion, and there's not much going to sway you on that, and it's going to be difficult to sway somebody on that. And the arguments you would use to sway somebody on that are not the arguments people are having. So, like, what are the arguments people are having? Well, the whole thing of, facts don't care about your feelings. Shapiro. It's like, yeah, Ben, life begins at conception isn't a fact. It's an assertion.
Yeah.
Because if that's going to be a fact, define life for a start. What's the difference between it and a germ? At 3 seconds in, what's the difference? Not much.
Nothing. There is nothing.
So it's like, yeah, okay, it's an absolute fact that the thing is alive, in the same way that it's an absolute fact that my liver is alive. It doesn't mean that my liver has fucking autonomy. But the thing is, on the other side, they make the whole scientific argument of like, oh, look, it's a fact that it can't survive on its own until 6 weeks or whatever, or 60 weeks. Not 60 weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
60. I think it's around about 18 weeks that it can start being incubated and actually live outside with incubation. I think it's around 16 to 18 weeks.
That is a fact. It tells us nothing about what we should do.
Well, that's the thing that I always find very, very interesting. I mean, after 22 weeks, every week, after 22 weeks, it's 80% viable for a baby or fetus to be able to live outside of the uterus by itself. At 22 weeks, around about 70 to 80%. I can't remember the percentage. I did do a video on it, and I did put all the percentages down. But after that, every week after that, the percentage goes up by 2 to 5% every week.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is technology is going to make this argument almost obsolete soon.
No, that's even without incubation. No. That's without incubation. After around about 22 to 23 weeks, that they have around about an 80% viability chance of surviving on their own.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, we're going to get to the stage where, in, let's say, 20 years or something, contraception is going to be 100% foolproof, and birth is going to be like viable from a week. It'll be something like that. So it'll be the stage of where we're going to be arguing about a week.
Well, I imagine that in about 20 years' time, that most people will be having births outside using artificial wombs anyway.
No, I don't think that'll ever happen. I think people think that that's going to happen, but the thing is that they'll find out that all that happens is we breed babies with horrendous problems, and they turn out to be like nutters because there's so much, well, they've spoken about all the bonding that gets done pre-birth, and then there's the bonding we know that needs to be done after
True.
birth as well. But it has to start from utero.
Yeah, but that's not going to stop people from trying, though, is it?
Yeah, well, the thing is that there's this, you maybe heard of it, there's the discipline epigenetics, and what they're finding about that is that you're literally a work in progress pretty much up until, I think it's something crazy like the third trimester. Like there's shit that is happening to your genes that is still based on the mother's lifestyle.
Yeah.
That far in, and I don't mean like fetal alcohol syndrome. I mean stuff like just the times of day she eats and gets up and stuff like that. All these things can affect the fetus.
And the fact that you can hear a fucking heartbeat, the fact that you can hear you can feel the warmth, the fact that you can feel the movement going around, hear people talking, social interaction, whatnot, the cooing and whatnot, the music that may be played, and so on and so forth. If you're having it in an artificial womb, I suppose, to correct my own argument, it would be a case of that you would be very, very sterile in both your neurological pathways and also in the way that you would socially interact. You would be completely and utterly separate from life because you wouldn't have the heat, you wouldn't have the interaction, and you wouldn't have all the other bits that goes with it.
Yeah, and there's so many other aspects to it as well that, like, what I mean is the argument isn't the argument. The argument is everything around the argument. So it's like this, facts and philosophy are completely different things, and stop trying to conflate them. And people are using fact as a byword for real. It's like, you know what I mean? And then there's the other thing of like, this is Alabama, Georgia, America. Why do I even know this is happening? Like, it's one place that is very, very, very.
America generally is the last bastion of, I suppose, human rights in general, rather than being suppressed by governments and authoritarians. So I suppose that's the reason why so many people are interested.
Well, this is the other argument people aren't having, and because as soon as the argument starts, it just turns into like, oh, need to deplatform the Nazi. It's like, is it a human right to have an abortion? Well, no, it's got to be it's a work in progress. Like it's different in different cases. It's different depending on what time it happens, and it's different depending on the circumstances. Because, for example, I don't think anybody would say throwing a brick at a woman's stomach is an appropriate way to abort a fetus.
No.
So, is that a human right? No. Okay, so we're already making distinctions. We're already starting on this route of it being like a human right is like, well, self-explanatory.
Well, the right to life, the right not to be beaten or killed upon.
Yeah, they're mainly negative rights rather than positive rights. So, like, the right to abortion is almost entirely dependent on technology for a start. Like, because you got to say, right, okay, the zombie apocalypse happens. I still know how my right to water works. I still know how my right to fresh air works. I still know how my right to a house works. I don't know how my right to abortion works in Fallout.
Yeah.
Are we going to have to, like, because if that's a human right and it has to be provided, then does that mean that somebody has to do it for you? Like they do now, but it would be done, like, obviously very barbarically. And so you're going to say, like, it's illegal for the person to not throw the brick at the woman's stomach, because that would be the situation you'd be in. So it's a technologically dependent argument.
Whatever other cliche that you'd want to use.
Oh, a drop kick or
Well, that happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger today, didn't it?
Oh yeah, that was horrible. But you know what I mean? Like, so there's all these things. So there's the human rights thing, and then there's the fact. Well, it's amazing how this doesn't get through people's skulls. It's like, look, liberals or whatever we're calling them, we know what your argument is. What we are trying to get you to understand is there are some people over here that don't actually disagree with you. What they are saying is that it's a baby from day one. So they're not saying anything that disagrees with you. You're actually talking at cross purposes. They're saying you can't kill babies. and you're saying it's not a baby, and you're not trying to convince them it's not a baby. So they see a baby, that's why they're annoyed. And it's like the radicals would much rather believe that these people are just evil. They're just evil oppressors. It's like, well, that's a bit childish, isn't it? It's like...
No, I completely not agree. I mean, I've heard quite a lot of people, especially in my own country as well, that has completely and utterly just come out and go, oh, it's my body, I can do what I want with it. It's like, logically then the baby's is its own choice, and you're taking away that choice from the baby. So does the baby actually have a body and a choice then, or is it just part of you? And then they go on to this weird tangent of going, well, it's like a tumor. It's like a form of cancer. It's a parasite.
Well, so are feminists, but I don't get to kill them whenever I like.
No, but even if we go from their own logical point of view, then that means it's okay to kill every human being, because at one point you considered them to be, not you, but generalizations, that you considered them to be a parasite when living inside the womb. So if it's okay to kill it when it's inside a womb, then why is it not okay to logically finish off that logical argument and go, well, that means it's okay to me to kill every human because apparently they're a parasite?
Well, that was actually what they did in New York. This is why we're hearing about this. They got absolutely destroyed over the New York thing, and they're trying to rally back against it. And because they're just losing ground at this all the time. Most people, pretty much everybody I know, is like, I'll paraphrase, but basically, like, once it has a face, you can't kill it. Like, that basically seems to be the general, attitude. And it's like, so unless it's an emergency, no. And what's now happening is these nutters are pushing it and pushing it and pushing it to the point where normal people are basically saying, oh, I see. Well, the right wing are saying, if you let them away with this, they'll try and kill the babies after they're born. And then they go, no, it's just her body, her choice. And then New York happened, where it's just like, no, we're absolutely killing them after they're born. So the right were vindicated on that.
Well, let's be honest. We'll have a discussion.
Yeah. We'll have a discussion. We'll make the baby comfortable, and the doctor will be spoken to.
And then the mother will be spoken to, and then we will make a decision.
And we will make them both into KFC.
Or chicken. Jensen Quinn will be very, very happy with that.
But yeah, you see what I mean? It's like, so the right wing have been vindicated, whether you want to agree with them or not, because they said it was a slippery slope, and the left wing said it's not a slippery slope, and then went and had a whole fucking home run with it. And this is incidentally the same thing as they said, for example, with, again, I'm not speaking to my point of agreement, I'm just saying, as far as the political weather goes, what's happened, the right are far ahead, because the right also said, if you allow gay marriage, you're going to have an assault on what it means to be a man and a woman. And the left went, oh no, don't be so stupid. And then what happened is the whole transgender, you can't stop this 40-year-old dude with a beard going in the women's bathroom thing happened, and the right wing were like, told you. And now this is happening. So the left are losing their damn minds.
Well, I think the left, to be fair to the left, and I've been trying to do this a lot recently, but to be fair to the left in general, I think that it comes from a place of good intentions. I think that they're so single-minded, though, in their intentions. That's the problem. What we want to do is we want to give these rights to these people that we know is not going to cause a problem. But the problem is
the gay marriage thing, that was true, but I don't think it's true in this case. I don't think it is good intentions at all in this case.
See, in most cases, I'm not saying in all cases, in most cases I do. Say, for instance, with the trans bathroom instance, I think that was a case of trying to look at a problem, look at the way that they perceive the trans and everything else like that. And they've gone, well, what we want to do is we want to give them the right to identify as they are and then go into the bathroom in which they choose to go into what's going to be the problem. They were so close-minded in that instance that they didn't realize that bad people will take advantage of that by just saying, I'm this way, let me get in that bathroom so I can see what I want to see or do what I want to do. They didn't see that aspect.
No. This is where I think you and me part ways, is they absolutely did see that aspect and they didn't care, and they don't. That's why they don't come from a place of good intentions, because it's about making you do shit you don't want to do, and it's a pure power trip. And it's not exclusive to the left. The right used to do the same thing. We remember Mary Whitehouse. It's sort of subset of society, and they hop over the line between right and left all the time.
Yeah.
Like these zealots. It doesn't need to be a right-left issue, but just now it's a right-left issue, and just now it's the left that are doing this sort of thing. And what's happening now is you've got these people, like most people at this point are basically like, huh, okay, so you're saying that my reasonable opinion, that sort of in the middle of the road, it's acceptable, but after that it's unacceptable. I'm not allowed that opinion anymore. Okay, blanket ban. That's what's happening.
I do see your view on that one. I do see it, and maybe it's just the memes in me that's coming out where I want to try and see the good in people.
Yeah,
maybe that's just there.
No offense, but I think it is, and I think it's actually not remotely. I know from speaking to them, you see their eyes glaze over, and they're like, I know it's not exactly scientific, but it's like you are on a power trip here, and the objective is not what you're saying it is. The objective, as I see it, is here's the thing people don't want to do. We are going to make them do the thing they don't want to do. That is the objective. Doesn't really matter what the thing is. They just will do it.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious as well, because the left are constantly about being on the side of minorities and the weak. So you'd think they'd be the last person to be making a might makes right argument. It's like, you're really going to say at the men, we're going to play the might makes right game against women? Are you really going to try and have that argument? That's hysterical.
I find it very, very interesting overall that when it comes to, say, for instance, this argument in itself, abortion, though there are so many subsects that could come off of this argument, so many times that you can talk about this or that or go into different aspects. But in a generalized, should we say, conversation that's supposedly supposed to be taking place, and I use that as flippantly as a comment as I possibly can, the conversation that's supposed to go on, comes to a point of when you talk to certain people, it's not everybody, obviously, but when you talk to certain people, you're a man, you can't talk on this subject. It's like, okay, you're a woman, you can't talk on circumcision anymore, because generally you're the ones who decide if the child is going to have circumcision. Oh, you don't like that? Well, welcome to our world. Now let's talk about it like actual adults and actually talk about it how I have this opinion, you have this opinion, and let's try and work it out together. Isn't that how that discourse is supposed to go, rather than both sides screaming at each other, going, kill babies, no, kill the mother? You know, that sort of aspect.
Yeah, and this is the thing, though. That's what usually happens. It's usually just both sides screaming at each other and the people in the middle are caught up. But what's actually happening in this case is, and this is the massive miscalculation that the zealots are making, is the fact that there is only one correct side in this, because what will happen is, it's kind of like the right's attitude in this case is, and the centre's attitude, by the way, is a sort of, the right's attitude is leave no man behind, and the middle's attitude is, well, so long as they're not endangering others, leave no man behind. But what's happening is, like, the left or whatever are going, oh, no, it's only about the others. You have to leave people behind. It's like, well, no, we'll just ban it. That's much safer. Like,
yeah, I do think that you're right. The left are more, or seem to be more of a case of for the greater good, as the old meme is. That what we'll do is that we will get rid of the other people that are in our way because we see it as the greater good. Whether it is or not is a completely different argument. But generally, that's the way it seems, where the middle is more of a case of, as you quite rightly said, I can see it from both sides, but at the same time, I think you're both idiots, and doesn't really make a decision either way and tries to step away from it and let them fight it out. I know that doesn't mean that I think centrists are bloody fence sitters. I'm a centrist. I'm centre-right, but I am a centrist in general because I do believe in the mixing of both ideologies. So I'm probably quite centre, though I do need to do another test, to be fair. But I do think that the right are more individualistic, where it's a case of, well, if my rights are infringed upon, then your rights are going to be infringed upon. And if his rights are infringed upon, then eventually my rights are going to be infringed upon. So I do see it from the points that you're making, and I do think that is a valid criticism.
Yeah.
From all sides.
And that's, I appreciate that. And also, like, this is the reason, however, I don't think it's coming from a good place more and more, is because the greater good always seems to be something that is both extremely counterintuitive to sensible people's morals and stuff that has previously been very, very, very taboo and illegal.
Mm.
And you could say, in the sense of, I would say, race, women's rights, and homosexuality, those were cases of just like black and white. This is fucking wrong, and we need to get rid of it. It's an old. It was a disaster, and I can't believe we held on to them that long. And what they are doing is they are using that as a weapon to try and advance all this other shit. And people are like, well, they're being caught up in this bizarre sort of hurricane of, throwing out all these morals, essentially, like these societal norms. And so what's happening now is the greater good always seems to mean what you think is right is wrong, and we're going to destroy it. Like,
and we're going to ban you from talking about it.
Mhm.
I do think that does
why is
seem
the
to
greater
be
good on their part always something that makes you go, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah, I mean, I do find it interesting that the way the public discourse does seem to be going, and that's the reason why I was trying to get a feminist on to be able to talk about her ideology and how she thinks that things are going and whatnot, and see what the future was. Hence the title of the actual stream for people that are still here. But I wanted to see what her ideology was and how it affects everybody now, because I find it interesting that each side seems to take a preconception or a prejudgment of what the other side is. And before you've even spoken to somebody, or even speaking not a word, we'll stick with spoken to somebody, then you're literally just pushing everybody else away. You're not actually learning what the other person actually thinks and realizing that they're actually humans. By the preconceptions that we're actually making and the prejudgments we're making, we're actually othering people by our own admission. And this goes from the right, the left, and the center. Because we keep on falling into identity politics, in my opinion, and we go, oh, you're a feminist, we don't really give a shit what you have to say. Some of the aspects in which they talk about are correct. Same as having an MRA on and a MGTOW on. Some of their aspects are correct and need to be addressed. But because you hear those titles, you already have a preconception. Your schema has already decided that this person is banned for a particular reason of your prejudgment. So you're not going to listen to that person because of the identity that you've given them. And I'm guilty of this as well. I'm not saying you as an individual, but just everybody. I just think if we were able to take identity away again, then we can change our schema. We can change our first reactive points that we have with people, and we can listen to them again, rather than just going, you're bad because you're feminist, or you're bad because you on right wing.
Yeah, I've kind of gone. Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, and I feel that like that's something I've been trying to do, and I think that that's why I'm able to differentiate between like all these. You could put it under the umbrella of the left wing, but the thing is, I can say for a fact that ending certain. Well, even then, the left wing takes credit for a lot of shit it never did. Like I don't know, the normalization of homosexuality and things like that. They didn't do any of that. It was that wasn't even political. That was fucking TV shows that did that. And,
yeah,
and
I think the social pressures, or the idea of just it being accepted in social and the socialization of those ideas play much more of a benefit than the government going, you will like these people.
Mhm.
It actually hinders most people in that generation of it happening actually liking those people because of the preconceptions of the government forcing them to do it. If they would have just left them, then they would be fine. The preconceptions would then run away. Most ignorance comes from levels of stupidity. In other words, not knowing what they're doing and the fear that comes from not knowing. So,
Yeah, I mean,
as you quite rightly said, with TV shows and putting them in the public eye, not with this agenda quotas and everything else like that, but just in small shows and things like that, and just inserting them into everyday shows, then most people will go, oh, I know that. Then they're just normal people. And then you get to the point of how we are now, where we just socially accept everything that has been gone before, because we socially have, to use of a better word, engineered to accept the taboos that we didn't have before. And I do use that word as I mean it, but I don't mean it as in a bad way as being engineered.
Yeah, no, I agree. I get what you mean. And like social engineering can be sort of good or bad. It's usually
Conditioning.
in a bad way.
Conditioning.
Yeah, that's a better word. But like, yeah, this is the thing. And it doesn't just happen with gayness, but let's just use that. It's like, I still remember when David Cameron tried to take credit for making it normal to be gay in this society because he passed the act of legalizing the gay marriage, and then it was like, then Labour were like, oh no, that was our thing, and I'm like, both of you shut up. It was Will and Grace and Freddie Mercury. You two did fuck all.
Don't forget Elton John and all of the good singers that all come out.
It was Elton John, George Michael, Freddie Mercury, and then it was Friends and Will and Grace and shit like that. Well, I mean, not Friends. I can't think of any gay people in Friends, but you know what I mean. It was shit like that.
No, I agree.
And then it's the same with race and stuff like that. It was never anything the politicians did. It was these social movements, and all the government being the parasite it is, all it can ever do is run along behind and say, "Oh, look, we're gonna make a law, which means it's our victory." It's like, dude, the battle's already won. Go away. Write your law if you want to, but please just be quiet about it.
Yeah. No, I completely not agree. I do think with the idea of social acceptance, social conditioning, I think most things would have changed. Because when people go, "Oh, we fought for we fought for Jim Crow and slavery to be abolished and whatnot," especially the Jim Crow, I've seen the videos and things like that. The government weren't interested in actually changing anything because people were protesting. The way in which they wanted to actually change was because they noticed that the country, with seeing the bad treatment of the people that were protesting, were changing their mind. The social conditioning was going, well, why should these people be completely and utterly beaten on that for expressing their freedom of speech and their rights?
Mm-hmm.
That's what changed it. Not the actual protest, but the perceptions of the people from the government being oppressed. That's where it changed. You humanized the people rather than it just being, oh, black people want rights. You actually humanize them by actually going against them and beating them and actually showing that on national news and going, oh, they don't have any rights. That's where it changed. The social conditioning changed.
Yeah, I have a lot of admiration for the people as well who are standing up to these pro-abortion harpies as well, because it's like abortion's the easy answer. So you've got considerably more than half of the population not standing up. Let's say more than half of the population disagree, but only actually a small percentage are going to stand up to these lunatics. And it's like they're actually arguing against what would be better for them in the short term. Because it's like the idea that men don't like the idea of abortion is fucking hilarious. Like, men would like abortion to take the form of like a handy body spray. Like, it's like, wait, you mean I can have sex as much as I want and never have like any of the women I sleep with get pregnant? And then they're actually going, yeah, but it's wrong, so we're going to argue against it. And then obviously the women on the other side as well, much easier for them if they don't have to have the responsibilities of getting pregnant and all that crazy shit, and that it becomes as easy and normalized as possible. But they are also arguing against it, and because it's a responsibility, and I admire people for that. I think it's kind of like it's a difficult argument to make, and the circumstances couldn't be harder as well. And it's like, this is the other thing is you use the term social engineering, and I used it earlier today in reference to this because it's like I shouldn't know this is happening. There's blatant social engineering because the New York thing, as I said, destroyed the left's credibility on this issue. They are now fighting back as they did with Trump derangement syndrome. You know, they're doing the only thing they know how to do, which is double down.
Yeah,
and they are now. They don't have any credibility left. They're just showing how much credibility they've lost. And yeah, but it's blatant social engineering because I shouldn't know about this. The fact that I'm hearing about this means something is afoot. And the other thing is the acceptable position on this, as always, is only actually about probably what 10% of people think. Like, you know, with most things, name any issue of the day that you and me speak about particularly, we're actually in the majority, but we're hiding away in this corner, or not hiding, but shoved away in this corner as some kind of fringe maniac movement, when in fact we are in agreement with the overwhelmingly vast majority of the population on most issues.
No, I completely and utterly agree. I
But
do
what I'm
actually.
hearing says that we are the minority, which is hilarious.
Well, I think everybody in their own aspects. That's what I really hate the definition of normal, because, for instance, if I was me being a straight man, if I was in a room full of gay people, guess what the norm is? It's not me.
Hmm.
So normal is just the fact about it being the most common. That's all. The same as any majority. If I went into an African country, then generally I am going to be a minority in that country. So, if I went to an Indian country, well, India, or if I went to an Asian country, I'm going to be a minority. So, why does it matter if somebody else from a different race is a minority in a different country? Why does it matter? Because of oppression points. And you should do this because of a minority. Well, that means every country should do it then. Does that mean that I should force Africa to be able to accept me because I'm white? That didn't go well the last time, did it?
But they're overplaying their hand massively. I think they can tell they probably don't know it because they're so insane, but I think they can tell in their gut that their time's running out. And this is why they're going so crazy, because they're making like a run for absolute totalitarianism. But because they know that people are turning against them. Because it's like, if you even look at the all these trans issues, it's like, I would never ever have seen somebody dressed as a woman and then deliberately gone, all right, Bob, all right, sir, or whatever. But see now that
Not
you're
unless you knew him already, and then they would be in jest rather than actually going against them on purpose.
well, it's that thing of like most decent people just go, okay, I get what's happening here. I'm not that interested. I'll just do what you obviously want me to do, you know, out of politeness and not causing a scene. That's most people's attitude. But then, so what happens is, because they're forcing us to do shit, they're forcing us to think about our positions. So now it's a case of where me, somebody who up to like a year ago, let's say, wouldn't have really thought anything of it. I am now going, not only am I not happy with this, but I don't actually know if I believe it's a thing. I don't know if I believe in it.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm now second guessing, when I wasn't before, if I'm going to be accepting of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now you're being forced to do something. It's like what I was saying before, that when the government put the law in, people were already going, well, now I'm going to hate these people because you told me I have to like them. Not because that they have any other, should we say, input than that. And people will make that decision that if you force me to do something, I don't give a shit. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
What do I think about drag kids? If they get to the age of 16 or to the age of whatever is considered to be a small adult or a young adult, then they can make their own decisions. But if you're talking about like people like Desmond is Amazing generally, I think that at that point in time, that if it's them that decides that they want to go to particular, say, festivals or whatever, or marches, and that's what they want to wear, then go and let them do that. But the thing is with Desmond is Amazing, I don't think that it was him that wanted to do that. I honestly do think that it was him that was conditioned to do that from such a young age, in my opinion. So I think that the parents have politicized him from the age of 2. Because even when he said that before, he said that, oh, I've always wanted to be this way because I used to play with my Thomas the Tank Engines, but then my mum said that I should do this instead. And once I did that instead, I just found it so much better. And I found that very weird. But those are just my opinions.
My thing on it is a bit more extreme than yours. I think that it's a quite clear-cut child abuse case. Any drag kid is a victim of abuse. Any parents should be either educated that they are committing a crime, and if they continue to do so, should be subject to the penalty of the law as if they were hitting their kids, in my opinion. And all drag people, whatever the hell they are, I don't know, all drag people should be subject to public indecency laws if they're out in the public like that, because it is a sexualized thing. It's like, the thing is that being a crossdresser and being a drag queen are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And part of the whole, if you want to say, if I can spit this word out, art of being a drag queen is that it's hypersexualized. So if you're out like that in public, unless you're doing it as some kind of performance art piece and have permission to do so, it's basically public indecency. I think a lot of these marches should be subject to public indecency type thing, because there's nothing wrong with marching down the street with a rainbow flag and all that sort of shit, but there is something wrong with marching down the street barely clothed wearing a strap on. That's take that off or you're going to prison territory as far as I'm concerned. And so taking a child to these things should be considered some kind of abuse. And
especially just to quickly add to that, because with some of the people that are there, they are either wearing something like mankinis, or they're wearing the stuff that Borat was wearing, or they're wearing literally fucking nothing and standing next to children and women.
Yep.
Because, you know, sexuality and it should be free. And yeah, that sort of stuff, I completely agree with you. That shouldn't be an aspect of taking your kids to see it. You wouldn't want it on TV, so why would you take it to a festival to express that?
Yep. And the thing is that these drag kids and cross-dressing again aren't the same thing. Drag is explicitly it's a comedy and it's an art form, but it's based on sexuality. Whereas a kid just putting on makeup because they're going through a phase is perfectly innocent. Yeah. They're not the same thing. They're not remotely the same thing. So as soon as the word drag comes into it, it's, in my opinion, a clear-cut case of abuse, and it should be stopped. That's fucking my opinion on it. And it's going. The thing is, we don't have, with the gay pride marches and stuff like that outside of London, it's really quite mild here in Britain. It's like they'll do a gay pride march. It's just people that you probably actually know going around with a rainbow fucking badge and flag. And
yeah, generally you don't get all the BDSM sort of stuff that all comes out. And I don't mean that bad in for BDSM, but generally there's a reason why that's done behind closed doors, because, you know, you don't really want kids seeing that.
Yeah, so in America and in the pretty much London, it's different to the rest of the UK, and I think so. People might think that I'm being overly extreme, but that's only if they live here. I think if you see these like ones in the big American cities that happen, it's just fucking wrong. So that's my opinion on it.
No, that's fair enough. I'm going to take the last question from Red Feather, because I am going to be getting off very, very soon. And that was, how about drag queens reading to children at the public library who were child sex offenders? I don't give a fuck if they were drag. I don't give a fuck if they were straight. I don't give a fuck if they were blue fucking aliens. If they were child sex offenders, they should not be fucking reading to children. That is my simple and final answer.
I agree with that, and I also think that them being a drag queen reading to children should make them a sex offender.
Possibility. Possibility. I do have one little bit of news that I would like to put out. I got asked to do a little bit of voice work for a European Union, a vote for the European Union type thing by the Facebook channel The Liberists. Yes. And I've actually was able to get commissioned, and they've actually accepted that I'm going to be doing that. So hopefully in the next couple of days, they're going to send me the video in which I've voiced, and hopefully I'll be able to play it for all of you as well. So hopefully that might be another avenue that I might go down.
That's pretty cool.
So just thought I'd let everybody know on that aspect. Do you have anything else that you would like to put up at all, Mr. Crumplepoint?
Just in summary of what we've said already, just the fact that people should be looking at not so much what the to and fro tug of war is, but why they're being asked about it, why they're hearing about it, at all, and why they're being forced. Like, have you noticed that everybody has to have a fucking opinion on everything, and it has to be set? And if you're changing your mind, you better be really sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's bizarre. And it's like, you can't just go, well, I'm not sure what I think of that. Like, with the Mormon thing earlier, it's just like, I don't know. That was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about the Mormons, and I'm not going to make an opinion about the Mormons based on that. I'm just going to say that the guy should have been strung up by his balls and beaten to death with a stick. And that's
the same as you would have said for any other child rapist.
Yeah, and the fact that it was an institutionalized thing and all that, like everybody involved in the hotline, the criminals, the people who were complicit should have been dealt with.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what, and like you don't need. But the temptation nowadays is like, okay, yeah, but what do you think of Mormonism? Is it a problem with Mormonism? Why aren't you coming out against Mormonism? What the fuck's wrong with you? You know, it's like everything is hyper, not just polarized, but it's like you have to have an opinion and you have to have it now. And it's
and you have to agree with me, otherwise you're in the wrong.
Yeah, and exactly. And if somebody's trying to get that out of you, you need to be looking at their motivations.
Yeah.
Because why do they want you to have a set in stone opinion? It might just be they want a straight answer, and that's allowed. But usually there's another reason.
Yeah.
And aside from that, I invite people to check out my channel. It's just my name, Crumple Point, on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on BitChute and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And thanks to CSG for having me on, and good luck with your voiceovering.
To be fair, this has been a hell of a lot better stream than I thought it was going to be at the start of the stream when nobody turned up. So I'm quite happy with that. It's gone really well. And thank you, Mr. Crumplepoint, for saving me. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why I bothered to say ladies because there's hardly any ever here. So
this is a sexist channel.
It never used to be. I used to be around about 22% females on the channel, but YouTube is predominantly a male-orientated platform anyway. So I was surprised when it was that high to begin with.
Well, that's because it's not social media, though. That's the thing people forget. Like, it's not technically social media.
Yeah.
Mostly, social media is mostly used by women, and YouTube is mostly, probably the most of it is probably instructional type stuff. Like, if you were to really crunch the numbers, vlogs and instructional stuff, most of the vlogs don't get watched.
No, I completely not agree.
The problem is that YouTube itself has got that divide.
Yeah, no, I completely not agree with you. But I think that's a conversation for another day. I will not be posting any videos for next week. I'm on holiday. I'm not going anywhere particular. I'm going in the UK, but I'm on holiday. I won't be able to produce any videos. I do not have the internet where I'm going. Yay. So no videos will be coming. I may post some stuff to Instagram and Twitter to, just keep in contact with people and just show what I'm doing. But apart from that, I don't think I'll be posting any videos to YouTube in general. When I do come back, though, I am going to be talking to a nice young lady who has autism, and her job is explaining what the medication and what not medication to take and things like that, to be able to go through that sort of aspect. And I just wanted to see where things have changed and what's going on. And I wanted to have her on to try and show the difference of what the levels of the spectrum are for different people and where they fall and what's going on and how to interact. And I just think it'll be quite informative on that aspect rather than just doing videos solely on politics and social commentary. I thought it'd be interesting to show more real life sort of stuff and people's opinions. So I'm going to try and do more stuff like that. But guys, with that being said, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you all again real soon.